Betty Wright was more than just the powerhouse voice behind Clean Up Woman. She was a mother, a wife, and a woman who carried both fame and unimaginable grief. Behind the walls of her stunning Miami mansion, she built a life of success, but also endured a pain that would change her forever. On Christmas Day, 2005, her 21-year-old son, Patrick Parker, was shot and killed at a holiday party. A tragedy that shook her family to the core and left scars that never truly healed. Today, we're stepping inside her private world. The home she loved, the children she raised, the secrets she kept, and the heartbreaking end that silenced one of Miami's most iconic voices. Bessie Regina Norris, better known to the world as Betty Wright, was born on December 21, 1953, in Miami, Florida. The youngest of 7 children, she grew up in a home filled with music. Her mother, Rosa Akins Brady Wright, and her stepfather, MacArthur Norris, encouraged their children to perform, and by the time Betty was just 2 years old, she was already singing alongside her siblings in their gospel group, the Echoes of Joy. The family's faith-driven harmonies quickly turned into a professional venture. In 1956, the Echoes of Joy released their first album, with little Betty lending her tiny but powerful voice. For nearly a decade, she and her siblings traveled, performed, and recorded together until the group disbanded in 1965. Betty was only 11, but she had already spent almost her entire childhood in the music business. Determined to keep going, Betty reinvented herself. Adopting the stage name Betty Wright, she stepped away from gospel and began exploring rhythm and blues. She entered local talent shows around Miami, her commanding stage presence and raw vocal power earning attention quickly. It wasn't long before she was discovered by a local record label owner who signed her to Deep City Records in 1966, when she was just 12 years old. Her debut singles, Thank You Baby and Paralyzed, made her a hometown sensation in Miami, opening doors that would lead to an extraordinary career. By 1967, the teenage Wright was already making her mark beyond her own career. She helped discover fellow Miami talents George and Gwen McCrae, and guided them towards signing with Alston Records, part of Henry Stone's influential TK Records empire. In 1968, at only 14, she released her debut album, My First Time Around. The record produced her first national hit, Girls Can't Do What the Guys Do, a bold anthem that showcased both her powerful voice and her fearless personality. Still just a high school student, Betty continued to climb. At 16, she released another single, Pure Love, proving that her early success was not a fluke, but the beginning of something much bigger. Betty Wright's career reached a turning point in 1971. At just 17, she recorded the song that would define her career, Clean Up Woman. Written by Clarence Reed and Willie Clark, the track was built on a funky guitar riff and Betty's sassy, mature delivery, which made her sound far older than her teenage years. The song was an instant sensation. It shot to number 2 on the R&B charts, where it stayed for 8 consecutive weeks, and crossed over to the pop charts, peaking at number 6. It spent an impressive 14 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100 and eventually sold more than 1 million copies, earning a gold certification on December 30, 1971, just 9 days after Betty's 18th birthday. Practically overnight, the Miami teenager had become a national star, but following up such a monster hit wasn't easy. Betty struggled to find another single with the same impact, until 1972, when she returned to the charts with Babysitter. This track was particularly special because it was one of her first self-written compositions, proving she was more than just a singer. She was a songwriter in her own right. The song reached number 6 on the R&B charts and cracked the top 50 of the Hot 100, giving her credibility as a young artist shaping her own sound. Betty continued to explore her vocal range, and in 1973 she released Let Me Be Your Lovemaker, which showcased her whistle register for the first time, a soaring, piercing vocal technique that would later influence singers like Mariah Carey. The song climbed to number 10 on the R&B chart, and number 55 on the Hot 100, cementing Betty as a powerhouse vocalist. In 1974, she co-wrote Where is the Love with Harry Wayne Casey and Richard Finch of KC and the Sunshine Band. The proto-disco track became an international success, reaching number 15 on the R&B chart, number 2 on the dance charts, and even peaking at number 25 in the United Kingdom, which opened the doors for her to perform overseas. For her work on the song, Betty earned one of the highest honors in music, a Grammy Award for Best R&B Song. Her success continued with Shura, Shura, written by Alan Toussaint, another hit in Europe and on the dance charts. Both tracks were featured on her 1974 album Danger High Voltage, one of her most celebrated releases. The album also introduced one of her most personal compositions, Tonight is the Night, a ballad that Betty said was inspired by her first intimate experiences. The original version reached number 28 on the R&B chart, but it was the reworked live version in 1978, complete with a candid monologue and snippets of her earlier hit, Pure Love, that became iconic, climbing to number 11 on the R&B chart. By the late 1970s, Betty had not only carved out her own career, but was helping to shape others. In 1977, she discovered rising musician Peter Brown and provided background vocals for his breakout hits You Should Do It and Dance With Me from his platinum-selling album A Fantasy Love Affair. In 1978, she showed her versatility by teaming up with shock rocker Alice Cooper for the duet No Tricks. And in 1979, she stepped onto one of the biggest stages in the world, opening for reggae legend Bob Marley during his Survival Tour. By the dawn of the 1980s, Betty Wright's chart dominance of the previous decade began to waver. The disco craze was fading, and TK Records, the Miami label that had carried so much of her early success, was collapsing under financial strain. In 1981, Betty took a bold step and signed with Epic Records, hoping for a fresh start on a bigger platform. Her self-titled album Under Epic featured the Stevie Wonder-penned track What Are You Gonna Do With It, which gave her a minor but notable hit and reminded fans of the powerhouse voice that had first made her a star. Around the same time, she lent her vocals to Richard Dimples Field's album Dimples, particularly shining on the controversial hit She's Got Papers on Me. 2 years later, in 1983, she returned with Wright Back at You, an album that included contributions from Marlon Jackson of the Jacksons. Despite the effort, mainstream success proved elusive. Betty, however, was not the kind of artist to accept defeat. By the mid-1980s, she made a groundbreaking move. She founded her own label, Miss B Records. At a time when few women, let alone black women, held the reins of their own record companies, this was a bold declaration of independence. In 1986, she released the album Sevens Through Miss B, setting the stage for her most important comeback. In 1987, Betty dropped Mother Wit, and history was made. She became the first black female artist to earn a gold album on her own independent label. The album brought her back to the charts with No Pain, No Gain, a no-nonsense anthem filled with hard-earned wisdom that shot her back into the R&B top 20 for the first time in a decade. Another standout, After the Pain, showcased her gift for storytelling and soul-bearing ballads, becoming one of her most beloved tracks. For many fans, Mother Wit proved that Betty Wright wasn't just a survivor of the music industry, she was a trailblazer. The early 1990s brought Betty back into the spotlight in surprising ways. In 1990, she teamed up with Grayson Hugh for a duet remake of Champagne's How About Us, giving the romantic ballad new life and exposing Betty to yet another generation of listeners. A year later, in 1991, she worked behind the scenes, arranging the lush vocal harmonies on Gloria Estefan's comeback single, Coming Out of the Dark. The song hit number 1, and Betty's fingerprints were all over its soaring choral arrangement, a reminder of her versatility, not just as a singer, but as a vocal architect. Betty continued recording through the decade, releasing her 1994 album, Beatitudes, which featured a remix duet of Marvin Gaye's Distant Lover, paying tribute to another soul icon while leaving her own stamp on the classic. Even as mainstream radio shifted its focus to new styles, Betty kept pushing forward, self-releasing music and building her legacy as a powerful live performer. After decades of highs and lows in the music industry, Betty Wright entered the 2000s with her legacy firmly intact, but far from finished. In 2001, she reminded audiences of her enduring power with the release of The Very Best of Betty Wright, a compilation of her most iconic hits. That same year, she returned with Fit for a King, her first studio album in several years, proving that her creative fire was still burning. Her influence extended far beyond her own recordings. In 2005, Betty stepped into the role of producer and mentor, helping shape the sound of younger artists. She worked alongside Steve Greenberg and Michael Mangini on Joss Stone's critically acclaimed album Mind, Body, and Soul. The project earned them a Grammy nomination for Best Pop Album, cementing Betty's reputation as not only a soul singer, but also a respected producer and vocal coach. A year later, in 2006, Wright reached a new generation when she appeared on Sean Diddy Combs' TV show Making the Band, where she served as vocal coach to the girl group Danity Kane. Her tough love, sharp ear, and soulful wisdom made her a standout figure on the show. Behind the scenes, she also worked with stars like Gloria Estefan, Jennifer Lopez, and Joss Stone, offering vocal production and guidance. Her collaborations only expanded as the decade went on. In 2008, she appeared on Lil Wayne's Playing with Fire. Although the track was later pulled due to legal issues, it showed how much her voice and presence resonated with even the biggest hip-hop artists of the era. That same year, Betty co-produced 2 tracks for Tom Jones's album 24 Hours, including a Bruce Springsteen cover and a song penned by Carla Thomas. In 2009, she lent her production skills to Diane Birch's debut album, once again proving her ability to adapt across generations and genres. Recognition soon followed. In 2010, she earned another Grammy nomination for her song Go in the Best Traditional R&B Vocal Performance category. The following year, Betty released one of her most ambitious projects in decades, Betty Wright, the Movie, a collaboration with The Roots. Produced by Betty herself and Amir Questlove Thompson, the album featured contributions from Joss Stone, Snoop Dogg, Lil Wayne, and Lenny Williams. The single Surrender earned yet another Grammy nomination, a testament to her staying power in a constantly shifting industry. On New Year's Eve of 2011, she captivated UK audiences with a powerful performance on Jewel's annual Hootenanny, backed by the Jewel's Holland Rhythm and Blues Orchestra. Mixing classics like Clean Up Woman and Shura Shura with newer material, she showed that her voice had lost none of its fire. Her achievements continued into the late 2000s. In 2017, she was honored with the National R&B Music Society's Unsung Heroine Award at a black tie gala in Philadelphia, a recognition of both her artistry and her resilience. Her final television appearance came on April 5, 2020, when she was featured on the series Unsung. Just 1 month later, the world would lose Betty Wright forever, but not before she had left behind a lifetime of unforgettable music, mentorship, and inspiration. Behind the stage lights and the powerhouse voice that made her famous, Betty Wright's personal life was filled with both love and heartbreaking loss. Over the years, she was married 3 times and became the mother of 5 children, each relationship marking a different chapter of her journey. Her first marriage came in 1976 to Jerome McCrae. The union brought her a daughter, but the marriage did not last. By 1981, Wright and McCrae had divorced, leaving Betty to balance motherhood with her fast-rising music career. A year later, she married Patrick Parker. That relationship was also brief, lasting only until 1983, though it gave Betty 2 more children. Her longest and most significant partnership began in 1985, when she married Jamaican musician Noel Williams, better known as King Sporty. Noel King Sporty Williams was more than just Betty Wright's husband. He was a pioneer in reggae music, a songwriter with global impact, and a man whose life intertwined with hers for 3 decades. The two married in 1985 and remained together until his death in 2015. While some reports suggested they were separated near the end, Wright never divorced him and stood faithfully by his hospital bedside when he passed away. Wright once reflected on her marriages with brutal honesty. In a 1986 interview with the Sun Sentinel, she admitted, "I only intended to be married one time, but marriages are made. They don't just happen. It takes 2. Compassion, not passion, keeps a marriage together. You can't stay in bed all day." Her words revealed both her resilience and her understanding of the work required to maintain love. Sporty himself was a man of many legacies. Born in Portland, Jamaica, on September 19, 1943, to Clarence Williams and Olive Ruby Smith, he grew up with the ocean at his doorstep. As a boy, he was known to dive into the harbor, swim out to visiting ships, and convince sailors to stop by his mother's home, famously promoting her as the best in town at washing and ironing uniforms. That resourceful spirit carried him into music. His career began in the 1960s at Kingston's legendary Studio One, where he worked as a DJ, producer, and session musician. In 1965, he recorded El Cid with Justin Yap, one of his earliest releases. By the 1970s, Sporty had relocated to Miami, where he became a fixture in South Florida's reggae and disco scenes. He launched 2 record labels, Conduco and Tashamba, and a publishing company, Kenemo, naming each after his children. His sound evolved with the times, ranging from reggae and funk to electro-disco. He released club hits like Do You Wanna Dance and Meet Me at the Disco, while producing tracks for artists including Bobby Caldwell and KC and the Sunshine Band. But his most famous contribution came as a co-writer of Bob Marley's Buffalo Soldier. The anthem, which paid tribute to African-American soldiers who fought in the U.S. Civil War, became one of Marley's most enduring hits after his death. Wright often recalled how close Marley and Sporty were, describing them as like brothers. When Sporty passed away, Marley's daughter Cedella paid tribute with the words, "Fly away, King Sporty, a true soldier." Sporty's influence extended far beyond songwriting. He helped shape Miami's reggae identity and produced music that bridged genres and cultures. In 2010, his lifetime of work was recognized when he received the Lifetime Achievement Award at the International Reggae and World Music Awards. At home, his legacy lived on through his children, more than 20, according to his obituary. One of them, Yusuf Williams, carved his own name in the fashion world as a celebrity hairstylist, famously working with Rihanna. After Wright's death in 2020, Yusuf shared a heartfelt tribute to his stepmother. "You were the glue that kept us all together before and after Daddy passed. I'm so blessed that I got to tell you how much I loved and appreciated you." On January 5, 2015, Noel King Sporty Williams died at the University of Miami Hospital at the age of 71. His passing left a void not only in Wright's life but also in the global reggae community. But tragedy was not new to Betty Wright's family. Behind the success, though, she carried the most painful title a parent can bear: the loss of a child. Wright was a devoted mother of 5: Aisha, Patrice, Chaka Azuri, Asher, and Patrick. On Christmas Day 2005, her 21-year-old son Patrick Parker was shot and killed at a holiday party in Opa-locka, South Florida. According to reports, Parker became involved in a fight with 2 young men, Niaji Brown, 21, and Derek Bryant, 18. When the altercation ended, Parker was found dead across the street from the party hall on Opa-locka Boulevard. Both Brown and Bryant sustained minor injuries and were treated at Jackson Memorial Hospital, but no arrests were ever made, leaving the case unresolved. At the time of the shooting, Wright was on a cruise in the West Indies. Upon receiving the devastating news, she immediately chartered a helicopter back to Miami to be with her family. Speaking of her son, she said softly, "We were extremely close. I'm just going to reflect on his life, and through prayer, we'll get through this." For Wright, motherhood was always more important than fame. Even at the height of her career, she insisted that raising her children was her greatest role. In a 1986 interview with the South Florida Sun-Sentinel, she explained, "Motherhood and music making are separate but equal. My 4 kids give me purpose. Spending Christmas with a hit or fame doesn't mean that much. The Lord wants someone on the mountain who can stand there and not be exalted. I've dealt with kings and paupers, and I don't feel any different talking to one or the other." Her third marriage to Jamaican musician Noel King Sporty Williams expanded her family further. She became a stepmother to his son Yusuf, who later became a celebrity hairstylist. After Wright's death, Yusuf shared a heartfelt tribute on Instagram. "Thank you so much, Mama Betty, for being there for us, for loving us unconditionally. You were truly a rock for us all, and I'm so blessed I got to tell you how much I loved and appreciated you. I pray that you and Daddy are dancing in heaven because I'm sure he's so happy to see you." Wright transformed her grief into music. She first performed the song Dry Well in 2012 at a rally calling for the arrest of George Zimmerman in the killing of Trayvon Martin. She later recorded it officially in 2014, dedicating the piece to Patrick. Reflecting on both her personal loss and the broader toll of gun violence, Wright told NBC via Reuters, "It is something where we need to stop and realize that this is unacceptable. And if I can lend a celebrity voice to it, I will. When my son died, the way I got through it was through the power of family and the power of prayer. And I began to write it out, as I have always done with the pain in my life." 15 years later, another cruel blow would come. After a private battle with cancer, Betty Wright passed away on May 10, 2020, in her Miami home. She was 66 years old. The news was first confirmed by her niece, who shared the heartbreaking update with fans. Just 2 days before her death, fellow soul legend Chaka Khan had taken to Twitter with an urgent plea. "Calling all my #Pray Warriors. My beloved sister, Betty Wright at Ms. Betty Wright, is now in need of all your prayers." At the time of her death in 2020, Betty Wright's net worth was estimated at around $5 million. Much of her fortune came from her decades-long career as one of the most respected voices in soul and R&B. From the late 1960s through the 1980s, she enjoyed steady success with platinum records, Grammy-winning hits like Where Is the Love, and international tours that made her a household name. In her peak years, Wright was earning thousands of dollars per performance, along with royalties that kept her legacy alive for decades. But beyond the music and awards, her most personal treasure was her Miami home. Located at 1035 Northeast 107th Street in the upscale neighborhood of Miami Shores, this was the place where Betty lived, raised her children, and created countless memories. The property sits on an expansive 21,000-plus square foot lot and includes a stunning 6,000 square foot residence with 7 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms. The house was a reflection of Wright herself, warm, inviting, and full of life. With tall ceilings, open spaces, and natural light pouring in through impact-resistant windows, it was designed for both comfort and elegance. The kitchen was fitted with high-end appliances and custom finishes, a perfect setting for family gatherings and entertaining. Every detail, from the modern bathrooms to the updated plumbing, electric systems, and brand-new roof, spoke to both style and functionality. Today, the home remains a testament to her success and taste. It stands as a modern estate, blending timeless charm with luxury. Surrounded by lush greenery and located just minutes from the Miami Country Day School and Miami Shores Country Club, the property is as prestigious as it is practical. On the market for the first time after her passing, the house represents not just a piece of real estate, but a piece of music history, where one of soul's greatest voices once lived, dreamed, and healed. What do you think Betty Wright should be remembered most for? her timeless hits, her role as a mother, or her courage in the face of tragedy? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories about the secret lives, family struggles, and legacies of the world's greatest stars.